Welcome to the 10th episode of the Handmade with Heart podcast. On this episode, I interview Nicole from Nicolio With Love. We talk about small business setbacks, tips on interacting with customers, and getting ready for the holidays. Before I start this episode, I just want to say that I record these episodes a few months before I release them, so I have plenty of time to edit them. So this episode was recorded back in July of last year, and then I had a pretty long string of unexpected events happen in my personal life, so everything with my small business and this podcast had to stop for a few months. I just want to thank everyone for your patience, support, and understanding. I'm really hoping to start interviewing a new set of creators soon. Special thank you to Nicole, who has been patiently waiting for this episode to air for a few months. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Handmade with Heart podcast. I'm your host, Dana, and I own the small business Scrappy Stitch. Have you ever wanted to know more about some of your favorite small businesses? Follow along as I interview other creative small business owners. We'll talk about getting started, what an average day for a creator is like, tips and tricks, and of course, everything is handmade with heart. Good morning, Nicole. How are you doing today?
Good morning. I'm good. How are you?
Good. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us how you got started?
My name is Nicole, and I own Nicolio With Love. It is a paper crafting business that I started in 2015. I make handmade greeting cards and card making kits, planner clips, bookmarks. I love working with paper. I love working with my hands. I love seeing everything kind of come together. And actually, Nicolio With Love started as a jewelry making company. It had started after I'd become a mother and I wanted to create like a mother's necklace. And I found that that was not where my passion was. And it has slowly evolved over the years and has shifted to paper.
How did you get your shop name?
My name is Nicole, so I started with Nicole. Olio is a mishmash or a hodgepodge, and I kind of feel like that's my crafting style. I just do a little bit of everything, the card making kits, the planner clips, the bookmarks. So everything kind of encompasses into that Olio name. And then I really do put love into every single thing that I touch and that I mail out and that I gift. It's so much different than just getting it from the box store. You know, that is not made with love. You know, when you're supporting a small business, that is what we do. We do love it. So I just kind of blended it all together and came up with Nicolio With Love.
That's so cool. I never heard of that word before. I thought that was interesting. I read about that on your website. You said you make card making kits. Tell me about those. How do those work?
I do. So those are probably my favorite to make. It is a one finished, completed greeting card. And then there's the supplies to make 3 more. So for anybody that wants to be crafty and doesn't know how, or for somebody who's looking for a project to work on with their nieces or nephews or grandkids. I have several older communities, like people who have dementia or Alzheimer's, and these communities reach out to me and make these kits for them for their monthly art programs. So, you know, if you don't have the supplies or if you're not creative at all but want to be, a greeting card is a fun way to do something small and simple, but then really feel like, you know, you've put your hand into it. So I get to create a little bit and then I get to gift it to people to create more. So I'm sharing that creativity.
That is so cool. And what a great way to be crafty. And like you said, you don't need to buy all the supplies because there is a lot to it. So people can be crafty without spending a whole lot of money.
Yeah, and they can make it exactly the same like my sample shows, or if they want to get creative and add their own embellishments or, you know, rotate it and move pieces around. They just need glue. So it's very simple.
Very cool. You don't make just regular cards. You make some of the 3D cards too. I think I saw on your website, right?
I do. So everybody makes cards. You can buy cards, you know, at Dollar Tree, Dollar Generals. The interactive cards are fun and there's something different. And it's something that people can buy and put on their table or their mantle because it has all these fun little elements and things that pop out. It's a piece of art.
Yeah.
And I want people to see it and smile. And I'm guilty of, you know, you get a greeting card in the mail and you open it up and you're like, oh, this is so nice. Thank you. And then you put it off to the side and you forget about it. Mine with love. I sit and I color all of these stamped images and I cut them out and assemble them all together. And it really creates this fun artistic little piece that you can display.
I love them. And you make some of the shaker cards too, don't you? I think
Oh,
I
I
saw.
love the shakers.
So explain what the shaker cards are for people who don't know.
So shaker cards are going to have a raised element with a little bit of acetate paper. It's like a clear plastic. And then you fill it with glitter or sequins or beads, or I've just found a company that makes these adorable little clay images. So of course I purchased penguins and dog bones and sharks and all of these silly little pieces of clay. So you put them all in, you seal it all up so it's nice and tight. And then when you are holding your card, you can shake it and it's got this very fun interactive sound and visualization. And it's just one more little extra piece that goes into a card that makes it that much more special.
Yeah, they are beautiful.
Thank you.
Now, you mentioned several animals, but I know one animal you love in particular, sharks. I know you talk about Shark Week a lot, so tell me a little bit about that and how do you incorporate Shark Week into your small business?
I do love sharks, and I'm not even totally sure how it started many, many years ago. My husband and I had dove with them down in the Bahamas, and it's just such an amazing, surreal experience. So we do go big for Shark Week every year, both personally and business wise. I usually make an assortment of Shark Week themed card making kits because if you are like me, you are hosting a Shark Week party and you want to invite your friends and family over. So I usually try to create a few different themed shark kits for people to put together. I always try to have, some sort of shark card in my stash as well. Yeah, it's just fun to get people together and host these fun themed events. I feel like as you get to be an adult, there's always a need for some fun and to be silly. And, if you can't go to a friend's Shark Week themed party where you're making a shark dessert or wearing a ridiculous shark printed dress, you got to have fun and lighten up a little.
How many years have you done the Shark Week party?
I have done a Shark Week party probably the last 7 or 8 years.
Oh, wow.
It started out just like, my husband and I, like, oh, it's Shark Week. Let's, make cupcakes with blue icing and, a half of an Oreo as a fin. Like it has definitely progressed into a more advanced level of sugar cookie and piping the royal icing sharks. Much larger crowds have started coming each year. So yeah, it's evolved. It's fun to have something new. Last year, my husband made a full size, I don't know, full size, but a PVC shark cage. So that sits out in our front yard.
I saw those pictures. Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah. So, it's a little bit, just got to top it each year,
I saw too, you made shark Christmas ornaments.
Yes.
Were you selling those too? Or
yes. I made them more for myself because why not? But they sold very well at the vendor show last Christmas season. So one of the stamping companies I use has these cute little sharks with Christmas hats on them. So I will probably be making more of those this season as well. I think people can appreciate just the fun and quirkiness of a shark wearing a Christmas hat.
Where do you find your inspiration to make your cards?
Oh, there's so many ideas in my head and there's just not enough time. I love paper. And I love the colors and the textures and the patterns. I have an infinite amount that I don't even like using because it's just so pretty. So sometimes, the right piece of paper, if it has bananas on it and I'm like, oh, let me make a monkey card, this is going to be perfect, or, succulents. And I know exactly what to put in that paper design. I love playing around on Pinterest as well. There's, so many creative ideas that I get inspired by there as well. The images that I purchased through my programs that other artists have designs, sometimes it's just the most perfect animal or sunflower or something that, I just match it with the paper and kind of let it roll.
You have some super cute stamps. I always like looking at your Instagram and your TikTok and watching you, create. And I'm like, oh my gosh, the little cat with the unicorn horn. And
yes, the stamping is new for me. I really have only been stamping the last maybe year and a half. It's more time consuming, obviously, as you're sitting and coloring each thing, but it's actually become a really fun activity. I do it with my 4-year-old who started now when she was, 2.5. She just sits and we sit at the table and we color together. And those stamps, they just keep coming out cuter and cuter. And I can't refrain from getting them. I have so many. So again, I have so many ideas. I just don't have enough time to make them all happen.
I feel you with that. I read that your goal this year was to create your own website. How's that going?
I did it. So there's always silver lining in unfortunate situations. At the beginning of the year, our garage had caught fire. We were displaced from our home for a few months. I had to shut the business down as everything was here. My house is fine. We had received severe smoke damage throughout the home. So everything in the home had to be taken out and cleaned and boxed. And it was chaotic, but it gave me a few months to really reevaluate what I wanted to do with the business. So being that I was not creating and crafting, I used that creativity to design a website. So I did create that at the beginning of the year, probably the first quarter of the year, and launched it. And it's been exciting. It is NicolioWithLove.com. I have a blog attached to it, which I am slowly getting into, another, commitment, but it's fun to kind of showcase certain products or certain crafting challenges that I'm in. And that platform does also have like the e-commerce option as well, which I'm still learning. I have always sold on another platform, but it's nice to have multiple options as well. So yeah, I did take that downtime and tried to find something good out of it and did create the standalone website, which I'm very excited about.
Yeah, I remember when you posted that on your Instagram and I felt awful. That's one of my biggest fears is like a house fire. Did your things get ruined?
Fortunately, the fire was limited to the garage. Everything in the garage had been destroyed. And then up in the attic, which was right above it, a lot of our items were in boxes, whether they be memorabilia boxes or old toys, old decor from the old house, yard sale stuff, all of my holiday decorations. So thankfully, things that were in like tubs and sealed containers survived. Everything that was just thrown up there had smoke damage, unfortunately. And then inside the house was fine other than the smoke damage. So I had opened the door when I heard someone banging on it. I opened up our garage door. And then by the time I comprehended what was happening, the smoke had just poured into the house. And, even after 60 seconds of that door being opened, the damage had been done. We had to have carpets replaced and ripped up. Appliances were replaced, lighting fixtures. So new paint. It was definitely an emotional few months. At the end of the day, everybody was safe and the house was standing. It's, minor inconvenience of being displaced and having our house kind of torn apart. Here we are many months later, we're still working on the garage repairs, but we were able to move back home in April, which was great.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. And kind of resume the as much normalcy as we could.
And none of your card making stuff was ruined?
No, thankfully that was on the total opposite side of the house.
That's lucky.
So there really was not much smoke damage, but everything had to be touched and cleaned by the cleaning companies who were fantastic. But moving back home was, unboxing hundreds of boxes of stuff. So
we one time had installed a water filter in our refrigerator incorrectly. And my sewing room / like crafting room is in the basement right under that. And my house is really old. I've never had flooding in my house before, ever. It's really well built. And we went downstairs to do laundry and we didn't even realize because it was rolling behind the fridge, like back under the fridge and behind, down through the walls. Like it was a lot of water. It was just pouring out. I used to really be into card making and scrapbooking years ago. So a lot of my paper and stickers and things that I had all stacked up underneath there was just completely ruined. It was awful. We had to rip everything out. We had to repaint all the walls.
Yeah.
Get a shop vac. We couldn't even comprehend what was happening at first because I've never had flooding in my basement before. And then it was, coming from that, it was right, awful.
Like, what do you do first?
Right. Right. Yeah.
Oh.
But luckily none of my sewing things got ruined, which is, that's what I do more now, but it was awful. I don't wish that on anybody.
No home home issue.
We had another time where right when the pandemic started, like I said, it's an old house, so we have older pipes and stuff, and they got clogged. So we were working with them. We were like trying to plunge them. We were trying to, send that little drain snake down and everything. We finally got unclogged and we were so excited. And we started the laundry and then the pipe just exploded and all this gunk just burst
Oh
everywhere all over the
no.
yeah. But
Oh.
luckily, like the laundry is on one side of the basement and all my things are on the other side. So it didn't get on my things. It just made an incredible mess in the basement on that side that we had
And
to
then you're
clean.
like fully focused on, we have to clean all of this.
Yeah.
And, then it turns into, well, I might as well clean this section of my supplies. And next thing you know, your basement's torn apart.
Yes, yes. I don't wish house disasters on anybody. So I really felt for you when that was
Oh, thank
happening.
you. It was definitely a crummy situation, but there were many blessings. And
Mhm,
again, everyone got out safe and the house was standing and the neighbors were able to catch it and everything in our home was okay,
mhm.
minus the, what was stored in the
Yeah.
garage.
Yeah. So, to continue talking about your craft room, you told me you specialize in organization, and I can see behind you right now it looks super organized. Tell me a little bit about that. And do you have any tips for anybody on organizing?
So, yes, I do have some organization behind me. When everything was packed up and we were able to kind of reevaluate the room, I said, okay, I've been in this room now for a couple years. What worked and what didn't? So,
Mm,
these are just bookshelves, probably an inexpensive bookshelf from Walmart or Target that you could purchase. And then the photo boxes that I get from the craft stores, Michael's. And then Cricut Silhouette to the rescue as far as labeling. It's still a work in progress, but fortunately, a lot of my products are small enough that I can store them in small photo boxes. So I have things like the baker's twine or washi tape, my stamps and dies, which are all relatively small, ribbons, or even my product. I keep my card kits and my planner clips and my bookmarks. They are all small enough that I can keep all of my inventory on my shelf in boxes, which that's something that I love. I love that it's all here ready to ship when someone places
mhm,
an order. It's important to be organized and
mhm,
it's hard and it's a constantly evolving process because when you find something that works, it's great, but then you have to tweak it or
mhm,
inevitably you're going to get tired of the boxes and want to tear it all apart and do something different. But I have found that this works for me and thankfully my product and my inventory and the supplies that I use are all small enough to kind of fit on shelves. And it's been fun. It is a process. And like I said, it's continuously being updated and evolving, but I do find that that works really well for me.
That's something I am lacking is organization of my sewing room. I spent probably 2 hours looking for a fabric the other day that I never could find.
Oh no. I've categorized my paper as well, and that was a recent project for me. So I've categorized it all into spring colors or designs. I don't even know what kind of categories I have, childlike ones or masculine ones. I know exactly the papers that I have, but you're right, to find
Yes.
that exact one that you're looking for. So that was a big project. Now I didn't tear apart the scrapbooks. I just kind of kept them in the themes because they're usually the way I purchase them, it could be a mermaid theme. So
Mhm,
I've got a whole box of ocean themed papers and I just have to go through maybe 5 or 6 pads of paper to find the one that I'm looking for. But that was helpful as well, just to kind of organize them by category. And that
mhm.
way I know, if I'm looking for the animal print patterns that I can go into that grouping.
I remember when I did scrapbooking and card making and stuff, and I have so many supplies for that. I would have such a hard time making the first cut into the paper. Do you have that too?
Yes, that's why I keep buying more
I
paper because
know,
I
that's how
don't
I
want to
was.
use the ones I have.
I know, because some is just so pretty.
It's the
Some
perfect paper for something, and I
yeah.
don't want to use it.
Yep. Mhm. I would get
Yes.
like that too. Oh, this would look pretty on here, but what if something else? What if it would,
Yes. It's like FOMO. I don't want to miss out on what this paper could be. So I'm just going to hoard it
Yes.
forever and just keep buying more.
Mhm. Do you ever get any custom orders?
I do a lot of custom orders. I do have some monthly group homes that reach out to me with themes every month. So that's fun to kind of be given a topic and I can roll with it, whether it be, just a generic birthday, or sometimes it's more specific, like, oh, we're doing a carnival themed. So that lets me be creative with the focus, which is nice. As far as custom cards, I do have some clients order the box cards in custom themes. So again, it's fun to have that direction to go to, because sometimes I look at all of my options and I don't know what I want to create. So it is nice to have that direct decision and say, okay, I am making a springtime themed box card, and what elements that I own can I use to create that? So custom orders, I love custom orders. It sometimes gives me a challenge and is sometimes frustrating, but at the end of the day, the client's always happy, and then that makes me happy. So yeah.
How do you ship your items? Because they can bend really easily. So how do you make sure that they don't get bent when they're being shipped through the mail?
So I do use bubble mailers. I find that even though my products are paper, the bubble does a pretty good job at keeping them secure and safe during transit. I do have a lot of people that purchase multiples or a larger quantity of items. So the more you kind of stuff in that bubble mailer, just a little bit more secure it gets.
I know the holidays are coming up. How are you getting ready for those with your small business?
Early mornings. Right now, I'm weaning myself up a little bit earlier. The alarm is set for 5 a.m. I find I do my crafting best in the morning when the house is quiet. I am not a late night crafter. By 8:30, I am exhausted and ready to climb into bed. I do not have creativity at that time. So I set my alarm for bright and early. I get a glass of cold water. I sit down at my crafting table, usually put on some Christmas music and kind of get in the mood, and then just start my creative process. I do find that if I don't have an agenda planned for that morning, when that 5 a.m. alarm goes off, or it'll eventually be a 4 a.m. alarm, I'm less likely to get up and actually complete that. So I do try to have a project set out on the table for me the night before I go to bed. That way, when I wake up in the morning, I have it ready to go.
It's a great idea. I'm not a late night person either. Kevin's friends call me Daytime Dana.
Because that's when you're good.
Yeah, it gets dark out. Okay, I'm ready for bed.
Yes.
How many events would you say you do a year?
I participate in about 3 vendor shows a year. I do enjoy them. I do find that some shows are better than others, and I like to commit my time to those shows and know that they're going to be worth my while. There have been shows in the past that I've participated in that I have not made my table cost, which is always unfortunate. Then there are other shows where I have made enough to cover the Christmas gifts for my kids. I have learned over the years which shows work and which shows don't. Your table arrangements and your table display, I found, are very important. If you just throw things on the table, that's not a great presentation. I always like to sit behind my table and let everyone see and touch the products that are on the table as well. That's always been successful, to kind of set my table up front and let people see and touch the product.
One question that people ask me is they're never really sure how to interact with customers when they come into their space to look at their things. Because sometimes people want to chat and sometimes people just want to be left alone. How do you sort of gauge that?
I do try to smile at everybody and say good morning or good afternoon or whatever the time of day is. I can usually gauge if they are just looking or if they are a friendly enough person to approach a conversation. I am not one to sit in a chair behind my table. I do not play on my phone. As people are shopping, I am definitely an engaging seller. I want people to know the stories behind the item that they're holding in their hand, or if they're picking up a box card that has cats on it, I'll say, oh, do you like cats? Tell me about your cat. I find that if you can engage in a conversation and get them to tell a little bit about themselves, even if you're complimenting their dress, they are more likely to want to support you. Or, even if it's like, hey, let me just take your business card, or I'll be sure to, follow along on your site. I feel like that is a better engagement than just kind of sitting and letting them walk past.
We talked a little bit earlier about your smaller price point items do well at the last minute, like last minute shows. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I call them silly. Like, they're silly little planner clips. They're silly bookmarks. It's not a high ticket item. It's not the product that you're buying to give your, mother-in-law or your sister as, the big gift. They're just little things. So if you're looking for little additions for that cat loving coworker or
Mhm.
the coffee loving mother-in-law. It's just a fun little add-on to stick into a gift, and it's a little more personal. So to just kind of walk through and see it and you're like, oh, that is so cute for $3.25. Heck yes, I'm going to add this bookmark with avocado toast on it because my sister loves it.
How far away do you travel for events? Do you have like a set limit?
I do one up in Mannheim. That's probably a 15-20 minute. The ones in York that the Find
Yeah.
does is probably the furthest I'll go. I don't like leaving my kids, on a Sunday
Yeah.
or Saturday, whatever. Like, I just love being home. I'm definitely a
Mhm.
homebody. So
Me too.
I try not to go too far. My stuff is all small enough to ship. So more,
Mhm.
an online presence is great for me because I can just pack it up, bubble mailer it and go.
Mhm. How do you balance family and small business? Do you have any tips?
It's hard. That's why I try to wake up early in the morning
Mhm.
so that I have my own time to work on it and I'm not interfering with time with the kids because I
Mhm.
do interact with them and play with them and keep them
Yeah.
entertained. My daughter is 11, my son is 8, and my daughter is 4.
Oh.
So, they are active kids,
Yeah.
and I don't want to always just in the craft room. Oh, mommy's in
Mhm.
the craft room. So, like, maybe we'll work together. I was saying my littlest daughter, she loves to color in the stamps, and I've got pages that I'll just stamp out for her, and she sits there and she's coloring them amazingly. I'm like, okay, this is good. For 4 years old, you are doing phenomenal. And she's learning how to blend, and like, it's so cute. So it's like, okay, I can be sitting here working on one of my projects, but I'm also spending time with her while she's coloring and enjoying. And so many mornings she'll be, Mom, can we color? Like, all right, give me a few minutes and,
Oh,
I'll come on in.
that's
So
great.
that sometimes I try to blend the family work.
Are you in any brick and mortar stores?
I am. My card kits are sold at a local store in one of the restaurants in Columbia, Pennsylvania. The store is Murphy's Mercantile in the Hinkle's restaurant. I've been a part of that store for several years, and it's been fun.
That's really cool. Do you think you'll go into any more brick and mortar stores?
I have been in and out of different brick and mortar stores over the last few years. There were two that just didn't work out. I also find that it's hard for me to sometimes keep up with multiple brick and mortar stores because I'm also selling online and I'm also creating for upcoming craft shows and vendor events. And so sometimes it's hard for me to just keep up with that demand and keep their stock fully supplied.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a big commitment. What is your favorite time of year to make things? Like, what's your favorite theme?
My favorite theme is probably Christmas. Who doesn't love Christmas?
Hmm.
Fall, like that whole time of year, just to put on the Christmas music. And, you're going from Halloween to Thanksgiving to Christmas. The moods of everyone is, a little bit boosted because they're in
Hmm.
the holiday spirit. I mean, how could you not get excited? And then knowing that you're hopefully going to be making a couple more dollars, which is always helpful. It's definitely the holiday season.
How much time do you spend on social media?
Social media can be positive and negative. I do spend probably a half hour each morning posting for business. There are multiple businesses that I am a social media person for. So I do try to post daily each morning. I find that that's when my engagement is highest. So it is important to know when your viewers are looking at your posts.
Hmm.
I try to interact with comments and like comments. So I do spend that time in the morning posting and commenting on social media. Sadly, then it turns into a little downward spiral, and then I will search personally and comment personally and just kind of see what my friends and family are up to. But I do feel like that engagement and that interaction is important for businesses, especially small businesses, to kind of go back and forth. And I want to see what you're doing and I want to comment on your post because I know that that supports you as well. So there are the pros and cons to social media. I do usually, downtime kind of check things as well. It would be nice to have more of a set schedule with social media. I know some people have time frames where they'll go
Yeah.
onto Instagram or TikTok or Facebook. And, from 9 to 10 in the morning, that's their social media time, and then check back into it later that night. I am just kind of, oh, I see a comment, let me look and check it now. Maybe that would be a goal this year as well, to kind of minimize the all day social media and maybe focus more on scheduling it for a certain time. I'd be interested to know if people do that.
I'll go on a couple minutes here, a couple minutes there throughout the day, when I have a few minutes. I don't sit for half an hour in the morning and then that's it. But I also don't have notifications turned on my phone because I don't want to be, I got a
That's a good
comment, I got to
idea.
go on.
Yeah,
And
that's a good
I,
idea.
I did not want to deal with that because I would be on it even more. I'll just do a couple minutes here, a couple minutes there, scroll through like a bunch of posts, comment, on other people's things, and then put it away for a while. You mentioned about knowing when people are interacting with your page. That is actually really important. That can definitely boost your post. Do you look at the insights a lot, like on Instagram?
I do. I know I don't have all of the knowledge on how to use those insights, but it is important for me to know that the posts that I am posting at 6, 7 in the morning are more engaging than the ones that I post at 9 o'clock at night.
Right. And different social media, your insights are different because maybe people spend more time in the morning on Instagram, but in the evening they're on TikTok more, or
Yes.
vice versa.
Yes.
Do you do online ads at all?
I do sporadically. I feel like when I'm in a little bit of a slump, maybe I'll just take that $10, $20 boost and put it out there. I don't do it very often because I don't know how effective it actually is. I have one going actually this week for one of the new cards that I had created for the kits and have found some engagement with it, which is great. I've gotten a slew of new followers, which I've appreciated. Not something that I do very often, but it is fun just to throw a little bit out there and see what comes from it.
That's something I've never tried yet. How do you film your process videos that you have on TikTok? Do you just have your phone up on a stand?
Yeah, I wish I was better at that. I don't have a permanent setup. So it would be, setting up a clamp on the side of my table and then goosenecking it up over my product and then standing still because I don't have the best gooseneck product and the table will shake.
Yeah.
So it winds up being a huge process that I've found that I do not record as often as I would like because it's fun to see them come together. And, then you see this little time lapsed video and you're like, oh, look at how cute that is when it's colored, at 3 times speed. And people like that. They like seeing that. But oh my gosh, my setup process is nothing to write home about. If I could, I've seen beautiful things that are like mounted from the ceiling and, the lighting. Yeah, that is something have just not gotten very good at.
I hear a lot of people say that you should just record everything. Like record everything because you never know what people are going to like and what they're not going to like. But it just takes so much time to do that and set everything up.
And then go through it and edit it. And yeah, and then like my phone is what I am using to video. So then I have to take my phone out and it just winds up being a little bit too much. So maybe one day when, kids are in school and I can dedicate a full day to creating, lighting is not great at 5 in the morning. So that makes it a little bit tricky as well. And then I'm constantly in and out of this room when I am home with my kids. I will come in here, I'll cut something on one of my machines, I'll go leave and make lunch and come back and switch out the paper. So I don't have a dedicated, time throughout the day right now with my kids being either home for summer or my littlest is just starting preschool, so she's not in full school. So
I always run out of space on my phone. I have so many pictures of my dogs. I run out of space quick. What is the most surprising thing that you've learned since starting a small business?
The most surprising thing I've learned since starting a small business is how much it costs.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you spend so much money. Again, you'd like to think you use the products that you have, but new products are always coming out and new techniques are always coming out. So it's just a never ending cycle of wanting to purchase or needing to purchase to upgrade the way you work things or to upgrade your product. I'm sure the money I have spent has exceeded the money I have made over the years. So it is not an inexpensive venture to start your own business.
We talked a while ago about you had a Cricut and then you upgraded.
I have Cricut. I've used Cricut products for many, many years, probably since 2000. 2010. I love their product, but I did start exploring the Silhouette software and their program as well. So I did purchase a Silhouette machine, or I was gifted a Silhouette machine earlier this season. So I've been learning that program as well and using their images in their design studio and software programs. So learning curves to each, but it's really good that I have the knowledge of how to use both machines. I'm also learning different things about the two companies and what works better for my company. So yeah, it's been a fun challenge, but nice to work with both programs.
Yeah. Because I think the Silhouette was always digital, wasn't it? I had a Cricut and it had the little cartridges and, it only
Yes.
held so many images. But now Cricut is, I don't even think they make those cartridges anymore. It's all digital now too, isn't it?
I think it's all digital. Yeah.
Yeah. I just got a Cricut because, that's all I heard about from everybody. And I don't know, I sort of wish I would have got the Silhouette back in the day. But
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a learning curve. I do like both machines equally. I like that as I'm getting to know them both, I can run them both at the same time,
yeah.
which, that's fun. And you can run multiple Crickets at the same time as well. It just takes some organization. It's been a good machine. It's treated me well so far. So I like what their program has to offer as far as recreating their products and reselling for my own business as well.
And you have to have a subscription, don't you, for the Cricut now? Or maybe you don't have to.
You can purchase individual Cricut images. They don't have commercial licenses for their images, the Cricut program. So if I'm making card making kits, I cannot recreate Cricut images because they're not sold commercially. With Silhouette, I can buy a commercial licensed image and recreate that.
That is actually one thing that really surprised me when I started looking into card making is all the rules and the copyrights of the images, because I know each company has something different and you would never think about that, but a lot of the companies said you can only use this image 100 times or 1,000 times, and to sort of be
Yes.
mindful of that.
Yes. And I am
Wow.
such a rule follower, and I
Me too.
absolutely do not want to upset anyone. And I don't want, my business being shut down. So I have had to research a lot of that. And I hope I understand it all correctly. But yes, I think over the last couple of years, things have shifted and I've learned more about what products I can use and what I can't. And if it's a pre-made product, I can sell it. But if it's pieces, I can't. So it is super important to understand that and make sure that you look it up if you are starting an online business, because you don't want to break copyright laws or get sued or get shut down.
Right. Do you have any advice for anybody who wants to get started in paper crafting?
Have a focus. When you start with paper crafting, there are so many avenues that you can go. So if you want to start scrapbooking, if you want to start making paper bookmarks, if you want to start working with a Cricut machine or a Silhouette machine, do you want to work with vinyl or make t-shirts? I feel like the possibilities are really endless. And if you go online, there's so many options. So really find out what you want to do and then research it and, start purchasing, start playing around, find a technique that works for you. What works for somebody is not going to work for another person. You're going to try to copy them, and then you don't want to copy anybody else's, product or technique. You want to find what works for you. So I would say if you're going to start with paper crafting, figure out what exactly it is that you want to create, research it, talk to other people, other businesses who have done it. Sometimes they're willing to share information, sometimes they're not, but usually they're pretty helpful, especially other small businesses. And then just find something that works for you and go for it.
What are your plans and goals for the rest of the year?
Okay, so I'm putting this out there. Oh, I've spent way too much money on supplies this year.
Me too.
And I do not need any more supplies. I have got so much. I've got all the paper I need, all the glue I need, all the inspiration. I need to use what I have. So as silly of a goal as that is, I told my daughter, my oldest daughter, I said, do not let me purchase those cute stamps or that beautiful paper. I have got plenty. So that is one of my goals here, is to just use up some of the products that I currently have. I also want to boost up the inventory for the Christmas shows. I do have 3 planned for actually one October, one in November, and one in December. So I would like to have lots of products. I do find that when I do the shows, the more product I have on the table, it winds up being a more successful show. Obviously, there's more for people to choose from. So that is my goal for the next few months.
Well, we are getting close to the end of the episode, and that means random fact time. Do you have your random fact for me?
I do. So, random facts, anybody who places an order online with me, I have thousands of mini erasers. So, every order that goes out the door gets some sort of mini eraser. So these are like little shark ones, of course, that I just
Oh, they're
purchased.
so cute.
But I have an assortment of animals and holiday ones and fruits, veggies.
Oh,
And I've heard, people, their kids like fight, they're teenage, their young adult kids fight for these like mini erasers. So it's just a silly little thing that has kind of become a little, I don't know, calling card, I guess. I just pop a little eraser in each order that goes out the door, and it's just that fun little added surprise.
Aww. I remember those when I was a kid, and I would
I used to
collect them too. Yeah,
yes.
Me too. Yep.
Obviously, we have collection issues, paper, fabric. These are cute things,
right? And that was another thing I couldn't use. Like I would just collect them and I would keep them all lined up.
I had them in a butter tin, the little plastic butter, like Country Crock or something like that. Yeah, I had a whole collection of them.
Well, it was great chatting with you today. Thank you so much for spending your morning with me.
Oh, it was an honor to be on here. Thank you so much for letting me be a part of it.
Absolutely. I can't wait to see you at our next show together.
Yes, it'll be soon.
Have a great day.
You too. Talk to you later. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Handmade with Heart podcast. Don't forget to follow Nicole at Nicolio With Love, and you can find me at Scrappy Stitch and the Handmade with Heart podcast.